Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, my dear students. This is Dr. Muhammad Shafiq, lecturer of philosophy at Department of Islamic and Pakistan Studies, KUST. The course we are studying in this semester is called Introduction to Philosophy, and the course code is called PHI 102. As you might know, we are studying the chapter of epistemology as a branch of philosophy, and in this context, in our previous lectures, we have tried to discuss what knowledge means, what different epistemic theories are, and we have discussed a couple of theories as logical positivism and foundationalism, and this lecture is the sequence of those previous lectures, and today we are going to discuss skepticism as a school of thought in epistemology.
These are the outlines of today's lecture. What is skepticism? What's the meaning of skepticism? What's the root of the word skepticism? We will briefly discuss skepticism before René Descartes. That is, what was skepticism among the ancient Greeks and medieval period and modern period. And we will discuss in detail René Descartes' skepticism, which is considered as one of the most authentic philosopher on the subject of skepticism. And lastly, we'll discuss the outcomes of today's lecture. Now, what is skepticism? As far as skepticism is concerned, it is spelled like Skepticism, and it is also spelled like Scepticism. So both of the spellings, they are correct. The word skepticism has actually been derived from the Greek word skeptikos, that means an inquirer. So according to Encyclopedia Britannica, skepticism, also spelled skepticism, in Western philosophy, the attitude of doubting knowledge claims set forth in various areas. So it is a kind of attitude that doubts the claims about knowledge, and it may apply to different areas like ethics, epistemology, metaphysics, and even aesthetics as well. It raises that most important questions like, are our claims about different areas of knowledge necessarily true? So it means that those claims which we make about our knowledge are necessarily true or not. So it raises the question, what are the grounds of accepted assumptions? So it also raises the question that what are those grounds on which all those assumptions are based? Now, this skepticism has been evolved through different ages. We find skepticism in the ancient Greeks, medieval skepticism, modern skepticism. So the skeptical attitudes began to appear in the 5th century BC, before Christ, which means around about 2500 years ago. Among those were the Eleatic philosophers, Heraclitus, Xenophon, Socrates, Plato, and some others as well. So according to Eleatics, there is no existence of the plurality of change. The Eleatics actually considered reality as something static one. They rejected the notion of the plurality of change. We also have Heraclitus. Heraclitus is a famous philosopher among Greeks, and he's famous for his very notion of change. According to Heraclitus, all is flux, which means everything is changing. As you might have heard about his famous saying that we cannot step twice in the same river. One cannot step twice in the same river, because if you step in the same river the second time, that river has already changed, because that the water has changed. So for Heraclitus, everything is changing, everything is in continuous flux, all is flux actually. And next to him is Xenophon. He was a famous philosopher of the Greek area, a wanderer poet as well, who doubted whether we could distinguish true from false or not. So Xenophon actually doubted that truth and falsity of knowledge cannot be distinguished. So it's a kind of skeptical approach. Next to him, we have Socrates. Socrates also had some views about skepticism. He remained a kind of skeptics, and you can imagine from his famous saying, he says that I know one thing, that I know nothing. So it's a kind of skepticism. As far as Plato is concerned, Plato, who was the student of Socrates and who modified that very views of Socrates about knowledge, that knowledge is justified through belief, which is mentioned in his famous work known as Theaetetus. So Plato also doubted the previous assumptions about which were held about knowledge. He also doubted. So we find kind of skepticism in Socrates and Plato. Next to them is Sophists. This was a group of philosophers. Among Sophists, Protagoras is one of the famous philosophers. And Protagoras believed that man is the measure of all things. According to him, man sets the criteria. A person sets the criteria. So this very dictum of Protagoras, man is the measure of all things, it implies a kind of subjectivism. It implies a kind of subjective knowledge. It means that the views are not ultimately or objectively true, but each view is actually merely one person's opinion. So there is no objectivity of knowledge. So it's the man who measures things. Man is the measure of all things. So for again, I would say for Sophists, especially for Protagoras, skepticism means that no views are ultimately or objectively true, but each view is merely one person's opinion. Next to him is Pyrrho. Pyrrho was another Greek skeptic. According to Pyrrho, when he applied his own skepticism, nothing could be considered as good or bad. It merely seems so. Actually, it is the custom, traditions of the people that makes things good or bad, or in other words, that render things good or bad. There is no such thing. Nothing can be good or bad in its own self, but it's the custom, the laws, the tradition that make it good or bad. Next to him is Gorgias. He was and perhaps he's one of the most very much clear and most dominating skeptic among Greek period. According to Gorgia, nothing exists. He actually doubted the existence. And Gorgia has his famous arguments. Nothing exists. If something exists, it could not be known. So if existence has its existence, then it cannot be known. Now, if it could be known, again he says it could not be communicated. So it means there is no possibility. What is out there actually in the universe, in the world. So he actually doubted existence. So, students, as far as skepticism in the medieval period is concerned, uh, in the medieval period we have Saint Augustine, Al-Ghazali, Judah Halawi, and William of Okoham. In the Middle Ages, uh, it was Saint Augustine who was influenced by Cicero's views. He had a philosophy of faith-seeking understanding, criticizing other views of the medieval discussions. So he criticized those medieval views which were prevalent in his times, and he has its own philosophy, and that was based actually on faith-seeking understanding. Next to him is Al-Ghazali. He's the famous philosopher of the Muslim history. Ghazali contributions to the world of philosophy are enormous. In Islamic Spain, Ghazali is the most notable philosopher who criticized the previous philosophical views of the Greek philosophers like Aristotle, and he criticized Averroes, what we call as Ibn Rushd, and Ibn Sina, views of Ibn Sina, who were influenced by Aristotelian philosophy. Apart from that, Ghazali has its own understanding of causality. For Ghazali, there is no logical necessity between what we consider cause and effect. It's a kind of semblance. So, as far as knowledge acquisition is concerned, Ghazali views are totally different from the rest of the philosophers, and it very much resembles to the views of David Hume. Though David Hume came later on, but Ghazali was the pioneer of that, what we call challenging the causal notion or the views of cause and effect. So he challenged those views, and he gave a new dimension to that previously held views. Next to him is who was a contemporary, that is Judah Halawy, who was a contemporary of Al-Ghazali. Judah Halaway, who challenged Aristotelian view in order to accept religious truth on the basis of mystical truth. So he challenged Aristotle, the views of Aristotle, and he was of the view that truth in religion is ultimately based on faith. Truth in religion is ultimately based on faith rather than reasoning or evidence. So he was against those evidences or reasoning which are against religious faith. So, and he developed a doctrine that is known as fideism. Next to him is William Okoham. So Okoham developed his own logical method, and on the basis of that logical method, he says that only faith gives us access to theological truths. The ways of God are not open to reason, for God has freely chosen to create world and establish a way of salvation within it. So apart from that, unnecessary laws that human logic or rationality can cover, they are not possible. They are actually, these are the ways given by God. So he was a kind of skeptic in a sense, because he has its own methodology, challenge the previous assumptions of the then theology. Students, as far as skepticism is concerned, René Descartes is one of the most famous philosopher, famous for skepticism. So he's considered as one of the pioneers of modern skepticism. René Descartes actually contributed to geometry as well, and he has this famous method that is known as method of doubt. He says, doubt everything that is possible to doubt. So in this very simple dictum, it means, the simple dictum means that actually whatever is possible to doubt, we should doubt it. We should not blindly believe in principles or in assumptions, because doubt is something that is of great importance. Unless and until we doubt it, any principle or assumption, we are not able to have a certain knowledge about that particular principle or assumption. So, in order to doubt the external world or in order to doubt the reality, Descartes thought it very important that first of all he should doubt himself, whether he really exists or not. So there is a phrase that is known as "I think, therefore I am." Cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. I doubt, therefore I am. Debito ergo sum. Uh, if you think, suppose if somebody asks me, why do you exist? I would say, I think, therefore I am, because I'm a self who can think, who can will. So this is one of the arguments through which I can prove my existence. But he was actually in favor of the method of doubt. Now, if I say I doubt, therefore I am, suppose if I doubt myself that I don't exist, so who is doubting? I'm doubting. From doubting is again obvious that I exist. So if I say I doubt that I don't exist, so in this very sentence, who is doubting? I am doubting. So again, my existence is proved. So next to it, Descartes has a famous dream argument, the dream argument, in which he says that as far as reality is concerned, it is too much complex. We are not able to differentiate between what is true and what is false, because most of the time people don't doubt. Uh, and he applied that argument of the dream argument on the life of human beings, because now suppose that now I am recording a lecture. So according to Descartes, I might uh, I might be dreaming. It's not the real. I am not awaking, but I might be dreaming. So actually, he wanted to say that there is no conclusive evidence in order to differentiate between what is dream life and what is real life, because most of the things, they are very much common between dreaming life and waking life. When one is awake, one may have a perception. In dreams, one may have a perceptions, or one may have some feelings. So there is no conclusive evidence in order to differentiate between what is being dreamt or what is being pursued as something real. But in the latter part of his famous book, uh, Meditation, he says, but when I distinctly see where things come from and where and when they come to me, and when I can connect my perception of them with my whole life without a break, then I can be certain that I want to encounter these things. I am not asleep but awake. So, uh, this dream argument is actually focused on whether we human beings are asleep or awake. For Descartes, in Meditation, he has a very lengthy discussion about that we might be asleep and suddenly we come to know that we were having a long dream, a very lengthy dream, and what we were considering as real world, that is not actually real, that is a dream world. So the basic theme, the central theme of dream argument, that it is not easy to differentiate between what is real and what is not. Next to it is he has the another argument, the second one, that is the evil demon. According to Descartes, there is an evil demon, some malicious, powerful, cunning demon who is actually stopping us from understanding the reality. A demon who is deceiving us. There may be a demon who is deceiving us in order to understand what is real and what is not. I will give you a very simple example. For example, we say 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. Descartes will say there is some demon who is stopping us. Why does it not become 5? So, again, in this argument, he's actually, in these both arguments, whether it is the argument from the dream or it's argument from the evil demon, he's actually emphasizing the importance of doubt. The doubt is something that is really important. Most of the time, we believe things as blindly. We should not believe things blindly. We should doubt everything which is possible to doubt. So this is about skepticism of René Descartes, uh, and these are the references. Thank you very much indeed.